Welcome to What Is. Today we're diving into a game that has been called the ultimate test of the human mind, a game that has broken up marriages, sparked international scandals, and served as the favourite pastime of billionaire geniuses and world leaders alike. We're talking about bridge. Now, if the word bridge immediately makes you think of a quiet afternoon in a retirement home with the scent of lavender and the sound of tea being stirred, I'm going to need you to clear your schedule for the next 20 minutes. But bridge isn't just a card game. It's a cutthroat high-stakes battle of logic, communication, and psychological warfare. It's the Game of Thrones of the tabletop world. But with more polyester and less dragons. Before we get to the how-to, we have to go back to where it all began. Bridge didn't just appear out of thin air in a Florida sunroom. It evolved. The story starts in 16th century England with a game called Whist. Whist was the ancestor of almost all modern trick-taking games. It was simple, elegant, and, if we're being honest, a little bit boring by today's standards. You dealt the cards, you played the cards, and the highest card won. There was no bidding, no dummy player, just pure card play. By the 18th century, Whist had become the obsession of the British aristocracy. It was how you proved you were smarter than your neighbours. But as the 19th century rolled in, players started getting restless. They wanted more complexity. They wanted more drama. Enter the mysterious Bridge. Historians are still arguing about where this version came from. Some say it was Russian, others say it was a variation played in the British colonies of the Middle East. Wherever it came from, by the 1880s it had landed in the London clubs under the name Bridge-Whist. Why was it called bridge? Some people think it's a corruption of the word berridge, but I prefer the more poetic theory. It was the bridge between the simple games of the past and the complex strategy of the future. Or perhaps it was because the dealer's partner bridged their hand over to the dealer. In Bridge-Whist, the dealer got to choose the trump suit. This was a revolutionary idea. But then, they added an even crazier twist. If the dealer didn't like their cards, they could pass the choice to their partner. This was the first spark of cooperation that defines the game today. But the game we know today didn't truly solidify until a fateful night in 1925. Enter Harold Vanderbilt. Yes, that Vanderbilt, the great-grandson of Cornelius. The billionaire railroad heir was travelling by steamship from Los Angeles to Havana. He was an avid player of auction bridge, a version where players bid for the right to name the trump suit, but felt the scoring system was flawed. It didn't reward players enough for taking big risks. So while sailing through the Caribbean, Vanderbilt doodled in a notepad and invented contract bridge. He introduced a scoring system that penalised you heavily if you failed to make your contract, but rewarded you massively if you bid high and succeeded. When he reached land, he shared his new rules. Within 2 years, contract bridge had completely obliterated every other version of the game. It was a global sensation. It was the Fortnite of the 1920s, except instead of the floss, people were doing complex mathematical probability in their heads. So how do you actually play this thing? If you've never played a trick-taking game, think of it like this. Bridge is played by 4 people in 2 competing partnerships. You sit across from your partner. In the world of bridge, the positions are referred to as North, South, East and West. North and South are a team. East and West are a team. The game is played with a standard 52 card deck. Each player gets 13 cards, and this is where the fun begins. A hand of bridge consists of 2 main phases, the auction and the play. The auction is like a high-stakes negotiation, where you and your partner are trying to tell each other what you have in your hands without actually showing the cards, or, heaven forbid, speaking in English. You use specialized bidding language. When it's your turn to bid, you're basically saying, I think my partner and I can win X number of tricks if a certain suit is the trump suit. But here's the kicker. Your partner doesn't know what you have. You're like 2 spies in a dark alley trying to coordinate a heist using only coded whistles. If I bid 1 spade, I'm telling my partner I have a decent number of spades and some overall strength. If my partner then bids 2 spades, they're saying, I hear you, I've got spades too, let's go for it. The auction continues until 3 players in a row say pass. The final bid becomes the contract. This is your promise to the universe. If you say you're going to win 9 tricks with hearts as trumps, you better win 9 tricks, or you're going to lose points faster than a celebrity with leaked Twitter history. Once the bidding is over, we move to the play. This is where things get weird. The person who first suggested the winning suit becomes the declarer. The person to their left leads the first card, and then the declarer's partner does something very strange. They lay all their cards face up on the table for everyone to see. This player is now called the dummy. Now I know what you're thinking. Being called the dummy sounds like a bit of an insult. But in bridge it's a position of honour, or at least a position of realisation. The dummy doesn't play their own cards. The declarer plays both their own hand and the dummy's hand. The goal for the declarer is to fulfill the contract. The goal for the opposing pair, the defenders, is to set the contract, or to stop the declarer from getting their tricks. The play moves clockwise. You must follow suit if you can. If someone plays a heart, you have to play a heart. If you can't, you can play a trump card, which beats everything else, or just throw away a useless card. The highest card wins the trick, and the winner of that trick leads the next one. It sounds simple when I say it like that, doesn't it? It's not. Bridge is a game of imperfect information. You know your cards and the dummy's cards, but you have no idea what the other 26 cards are. You have to use the clues from the bidding phase and the cards played early on to build up a mental map of the entire table. You're basically a card counting detective trying to solve a mystery in real time. And then there's duplicate bridge. This is the version played in tournaments. In a normal home game, you might lose because you were dealt terrible cards. That's just luck. But bridge players hate luck. They want to turn bridge into a pure sport. In duplicate bridge, the same hands are played at every table in the room. If you got dealt a hand with nothing but 2s and 3s, you don't groan. You think, okay, how can I lose less than the other people who are playing this exact same terrible hand in the other room? You aren't playing against the cards, you're playing against human potential. This level of competition leads us to the cultural impact of the game. In the 1930s and 40s, bridge was the most popular hobby in the world. It was estimated that 44% of American households had at least one bridge player. It was a status symbol. If you couldn't play bridge, you weren't getting invited to the best parties. This era also gave us the game's first true superstar, Eli Culbertson. Culbertson was a master of self-promotion. He was the P.T. Barnum of cards. He realized that people loved drama, so he organized the Battle of the Century in 1931. It was Culbertson and his wife Josephine against another expert, Sidney Lentz. The match lasted 33 days, and it was covered on the front pages of newspapers. Radio stations gave play-by-play updates. It was like the Super Bowl, but for people who like maths. Culbertson won, and in doing so he turned bridge into a multi-million-dollar industry. He sold books, he sold cards, he even sold bridge-themed cigarettes. During the Great Depression, bridge was a godsend. It was cheap entertainment. All you needed was a deck of cards and 3 friends. It provided an escape into a world of logic and order when the real world felt chaotic. Even Hollywood caught bridge fever. If you watch old movies from the 30s, there's almost always a bridge table in the background. In Sunset Boulevard, the protagonist finds himself playing bridge with legendary silent film stars. Even James Bond is a bridge player. In the novel Moonraker, Ian Fleming spends pages and pages describing a high-stakes bridge game where Bond uses his skills to sniff out a cheat. But as the decades rolled on, bridge's cultural dominance started to fade. The 1960s brought a shift in how people spent their leisure time. Television became the primary hearth of the home. Young people started to look for faster, less stuffy activities. Bridge started to get the reputation of being a grandma game. But don't tell that to the people who actually play it today. Bridge has some very powerful fans. Bill Gates and Warren Buffett are famous bridge obsessives. They've been known to play for hours on end, often competing in online tournaments under pseudonyms. Buffett once said, "Bridge is such a sensational game that I wouldn't mind being in jail if I had 3 cellmates who were decent players." When one of the richest men in history says he'd be fine in prison as long as he has a partner who knows when to lead a diamond, you know the game has some serious psychological hooks. So why does it have such a hold on people? Why has it survived for hundreds of years? First, there's the social aspect. Bridge is one of the few games that requires a deep, almost telepathic connection with another human being. You and your partner are a unit. You succeed together, you fail together, you develop a shared language. There's a famous story of a bridge player who after 50 years of marriage was asked why he never divorced his wife, despite their constant arguing. He replied, "Because I could never find another partner who understood my unconventional opening bids." Second, it's the mental stimulation. Bridge is one of the only activities proven to keep the brain sharp as we age. It's like a gym for your prefrontal cortex. It requires memory, visualization, probability, and something called table feel, the ability to sense when an opponent is bluffing or nervous. Third, it's complexity. There are roughly 635 billion possible hands in bridge. You could play every day for 1,000 years and never see the same situation twice. It's an infinite puzzle. In recent years, the game has been fighting for a comeback. The World Bridge Federation has been pushing to get bridge recognized as an Olympic mind sport, alongside chess. There are youth bridge camps and university clubs popping up as a new generation discovers that analog gaming offers a level of depth that a smartphone app just can't replicate. In a world of 15-second TikToks and instant gratification, bridge asks you to sit down. It asks you to focus. It asks you to cooperate. It asks you to think 3, 4, 10 steps ahead. It tells us that communication is hard, that risks are necessary, and that sometimes you have to be the dummy so your partner can shine. So what is bridge? It's a legacy of the Enlightenment. It's a steamship invention. It's a battlefield of wits. It's a 52-card mystery that we may never truly solve. And maybe, just maybe, it's the most fun you can have with 3 other people and a folding table. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of bridge. If you enjoyed this journey through history and strategy, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to What Is. We have plenty more stories behind the things you thought you knew, but didn't quite understand. Do you play bridge? Or are you now tempted to go and buy a deck of cards and find 3 brave friends? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, keep your trumps high and your partner happy. Thanks for watching.